All right, we are live. Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, Sat Sri Akal, Salam, and greetings, General Ian Cardozo. Welcome to the experience, inspiring, cool conversations that we have every Sunday with best selling authors like you. So, welcome once again.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you.
Pleasure having with you. It's an honor. You are a Karmavir Award recipients. You received the Karmavir Puraskar. You received the Karmavir Maharatna in 2019 from the Rex Karmavir Global Fellowship Community. And more than that, it's an honor for me to be a part of the same alumni as you, Saint Xavier's High School, which we both hold in high regard. And it was a matter of great honor for me when I was chosen to be uh, chief guest along with you for the school closing sesquicentennial celebrations in 2019. I didn't know till then that you were St. Xavier's alumni.
Okay.
Yes. And then, of course, I'm familiar with all the work that you're doing. So, and namaste to all our people who have joined us in the audience. A lot of Xavierites from all batches would be joining in, and they look forward to listening in to your story and also getting insights about the book that you've written 1971 and the other books like Paramveer Chakra, etc., which we'll speak about later. So, namaste and welcome to everybody in the audience who joined in. Thank you for joining in. And my name is Jerry Almeida, and I'm your host for the evening. And we have with us Major General Ian Cardozo, who's a army veteran, war hero, and an author, and does a lot of inspiring work even in the social space. So, welcome to all of you once again. So, General Cardozo, every Sunday we have the inspiring conversations with best-selling authors. I always feel that the best gift that you can give to human beings and people, children especially, is the gift of reading, because with a book you're never alone, and with a book you can travel around the world right from your living room, because you go so deeply into the words written by the author based on all the research that they've done, that you can travel several cities and several countries. And that is the reason we invite authors who write books in three genres. One is self-help, personal development, all the work that I do in life coaching, corporate training, and life leadership and learning to learn lessons, as we call it. Second is autobiographies or true stories of real heroes, books like what I write, books like what you write, real true stories of unsung heroes, people who perished in war, people who've fought in the army, or are part of the armed forces. And I write stories of very ordinary people who are doing extraordinary work to make a difference in our world. And I think somewhere I was inspired also by you to get on this journey of writing real true stories of real heroes, because I remember way back around 2005 is when I tried to get a entertainment company interested in making the Paramveer Chakra into a teleseries. Unfortunately, it didn't work out because they are more interested in the Saas Bahu serials. But now I think the time is ripe with OTT platforms, etc., to create a series of unsung heroes from the armed forces. And the third genre is basically books that address social, political, economic, current affairs, all kinds of issues from around the world where people blow the whistle or expose wrongs. So we've had several authors who've done that, right from Dr. S.Y. Qureshi, who was a former chief election commissioner, or IPS officer Amod Kant, who has written books on his days in the police force. We had the RANW director, Mr. GBS Sidhu, who has written books on the Khalistani conspiracy, etc. And today we are looking forward to learn from the books that you've written. You write mostly about war heroes and people from the armed forces who've who've risked their lives and even given their lives for the country and for the people of the country. So I think it's a conversation that is not only going to be insightful and inspiring, it's also a conversation where we would pay tribute to all our unsung heroes from the armed forces. To begin with, General Ian Cardozo, I mean, you have a very inspiring story. So I would request you to walk our audience through your life story, your journey of life over the past many years, right from childhood to school days to your young days in college, and what inspired you to join the army, and then your days in the army, the several wars that you participated in, and then your work. beyond the army now, which is in the social space as the chairman of the Rehabilitation Council of India, and all the books that you write. So over to you. The next 10 minutes to 10 to 15 minutes is exclusive screen time. I will go on invisible mode, and the screen will be just yours. So over to you, General Ian Cardozo.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry. It's a long journey and a long story, so you'll have to remind me to wind up on time. 10 minutes is 10 minutes.
Don't wait. Take 10 to 15 minutes. We have
Okay.
all the time, and the audience is waiting to hear your story. Yeah.
Yes. So I would like to remind the audience that life starts with the family. The journey carries on to school and to college and to your profession. Uh, in my family, it was my father who fostered the value of reading and also about the armed forces. He had a scrapbook of World War II. He gave me books to read. He used to bring books for me to read, and I should read till late at night. I should finish nearly a book a day. And he had to say, "Come on, son, now it's time to go to sleep." So my inspiration about the armed forces started when I was in school. And my school, as Jerry has just mentioned, was St. Xavier's High School, Bombay. Now, the good part I would like to share with you about St. Xavier's School is that we never had any homework. All the work was done in class, and the next day, the first 10 minutes was devoted to revising what he had taught us the previous day. And if we didn't know what he taught us, we were in for trouble. So, also, the Jesuits who used to run St. Xavier's School were more interested not only in academic brilliance, but in character. They wanted us to have character. And for that, they encouraged us in games and extracurricular activities and the values of truth, never to tell a lie, never to cheat, things like that. And if we fail, then we had to bear the consequences of corporal punishment, and nobody really bothered. We took it like a man and forgot about it. Everybody forgot about it, and we moved on forward. So school was great. I captained the junior hockey team. We won the Dr. Vegas Cup. Then I was part of the school team. I was part of the college team. I joined St. Xavier's College. But after a year, I decided to leave college and join the armed forces. And the reason was that I was not very happy with a, a blue collar job, going to office every day and coming back home. Same office, same people, same job. And I thought that the army offered a variety of opportunities, games, adventure, things like that. So when I was to leave college after a year, I was called by the vice principal, Reverend Father Richard Pereira, and told, "You have denied somebody a seat in this college, and now you are going to leave. Don't ever think of coming back." So I said, "Okay, Father, I won't come back." And then I went to the NDA. Now, I'd like to tell you something funny about my life in the NDA. My first few days in the NDA were very, very, very tough. And that was because in Bombay, we lived close to the road, and my parents weren't very keen on my cycling on these roads. So I did not know how to mount and dismount. So when I got my cycle in the NDA, and in NDA, you have to have a cycle or you had it, because you have to ride from classes to PT fields to the drill square to the riding school. So I got onto my bike and I didn't mount. I followed the squad, but there was a sharp turn, steep angle descent. I couldn't turn. I flew over the road, crashed down about 14 feet. My cycle was a mess. And thereafter, I was running. I was the only apparition in the NDA running from place to place and being late everywhere, getting punishments. I used to skip breakfast, skip dinner because I was on punishment every night. And uh, I lost about 17 kgs in 2 months. But then my Devo, that is the teacher, uh, told me that, son, you better pull up your socks. And the next event is the novices boxing tournament. You better do well there. So I said, yes, sir. I trained hard. I won every bout till I reached the finals. And I restored my reputation in the eyes of my course mates and my instructors. I was given my cycle back. I learned to mount and dismount. And after that, there was no looking back. My first term, I was at the bottom of my course. To cut a long story short, uh, I was also told by my Dev officer, that the most important principle, one of the important principles of war is cooperation. So you are not doing well in math and Hindi. You're topping the course in every other subject. If you teach others what you are good at and they teach you what you are not good at, I think everybody would benefit. And that's what happened. And to cut a long story short, in the fifth term, I was second in order of merit. In my final term, I was first in order of merit. And I'm the one of two cadets in the history of the NDA to get both the gold and silver medal. Gold medal for being the best all-round cadet and silver medal for being first in order of merit. And then I went on to the IMA and the 1st Battalion, the 5th Gorkha Rifles, fought 3 wars. The 65 war was particularly bad because my company was involved in attacks and ambushes and raids across the line control. I lost my second in command. I lost my platoon commanders. I lost my NCOs. It was very, very tough because I knew every soldier like the back of my hand. I had visited their homes in Nepal. I knew their parents, their children, their wives. I learned the language. I learned the dialects. I learned their songs and dances. I learned the difficulties they went through. So I was totally involved with my men. And then we went on to the 71 war. In the 71 war, it's a long story, the Battle of Sylhet, uh, which we might come to later. Uh, but there are many lessons to be learned from my life. And that is why I wrote this book. Not this book, I'm sorry. I'm writing the next book. The next book is titled Kartu Saab. And Kartu Saab is the name given to me by my Gurkha soldiers who found it difficult to pronounce Cardozo. So
Right.
I'm known as Kartu Saab in my battalion. And that book will probably come out in October, which will give the details of all that I said just now. After I left, the problem with in this war, I got badly wounded. I lost a leg. And the army and the government offered us lots of concessions to leave, but we had to be invalidated out. And I knew no other life except the life of the army, the life of my Gurkha soldiers, and I wanted with all my heart to go back to my battalion, but the rules did not permit it. So I decided, I read a story about an RAF officer, Royal Air Force officer. His name was Douglas Bader. He lost both his legs, but his country and the Air Force allowed him to fly. And in Second World War, he shot down 21 German aircraft and became an ace. And then he was shot down over Germany, and his legs got stuck in the cockpit. He landed on his stumps, got hurt, was taken to hospital, and they asked him, "What do you want?" He said, "I want my legs." They said, "Your legs are destroyed in the air crash." He said, "No, I have a second pair of legs in the UK. Fly it out for me." And so the governments of UK and Germany decided to fly a Dakota. They dropped his legs over his hospital. They gave him his legs, and what did he do? That night, he escaped. But it was winter, so he couldn't go very far. So they captured him, brought him back, took away his legs, put him on the first floor in a dormitory where he was alone. What did he do? He crawled from bed to bed, pulled out the bed sheets, made a rope, tied it to one of the beds, put it out of the window, and escaped for the second time without his legs. He crawled through the snow. How far could he go? He was caught. But that taught me that there is, if you are determined to do what you want, if you if you don't get overcome with fear, if you never give up, you can get what you want. And I
Absolutely.
said,
And that's what we call as the science of resilience in
good.
the in our learning circles. And I think that's what your book is all about, and we'll get to that later. But this is such a powerful story, and I'm sure that you drew a lot of inspiration from that.
Yeah, I did. And I said to myself, if he could do that without both legs, what can I not do with my loss of one leg? So it's a long story, it'll all come out in Kartu Saab, the next book.
Right.
But when I went to Army headquarters, there was a battle physical efficiency test, and I decided to do it. So I went, it was a PT, we had to do it in PT kit, not battle physical efficiency test, the physical training test. I've forgotten the exact nomenclature. So I went with long pants because I had a wooden leg and I had boots instead of PT kit with shorts and shirts and PT shoes. So the person conducting the test said, "You there? Why are you in trousers and why are you with boots?" So I said, "Sir, I have a wooden leg and that's why I'm in trousers and in boots." So he said, "So you're a low medical category?" I said, "Yes, sir." "So you cannot take part." So I said, "The circular does not ban me, sir. I want to take part." So anyway, to cut a long story short, he allowed me to take part. I left 7 officers with 2 legs behind me in the 2-mile run, and he was very happy. He wrote a very good report about me and said this officer with one leg has done better than some officers with 2 legs. And that report helped me when I went to Military Operations Directorate, the DMO, General Y. They said, "Have you commanded a battalion?" So I said, "No, sir." He says, "Why?" I said, "This is the reason." He said, "Do you want to command a battalion?" I said, "Yes, sir." "Apply." So I applied, and he forwarded my request to the vice chief. The vice chief said, "Send him with me on a tour to J&K." So I went, I prepared well, I answered all the questions, I gave the right advice. But he was going from post to post in a chopper. I was going down with a jeep. And at the final post, I learned that a friend of mine was commanding the post. So I said, "Let me go and meet him." So without thinking much about it, I climbed about 3,800 feet. I met this officer. We had breakfast together. And the vice chief landed in his helicopter. He said, "How did you get here?" He probably thought, being an NDA guy, I managed to wangle a helicopter from the Air Force. So I couldn't understand what he was saying. So I said, "Sir, I climbed." He said, "You can climb." I said, "Sir, what I cannot do lies in the minds of my senior officers." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Sir, the army has not given me a chance to prove what I can do." He said, "Okay, okay." So then he put my case up to the chief, and the chief was General Tappy Raina. He had lost an eye in World War II, so he probably felt a little for the war disabled. And he said, "Send him with me to Ladakh." So I went to Ladakh with him, clambered over snow and ice, and I came back. He said, he asked for my file, and he said, "Yes, give him a battalion and other war disabled officers who are not taking shelter of their wounds." So I opened the door for battle casualties to come back to troops, to command troops, and to get promoted. So I was a guinea pig, and it worked. And subsequently, 3 officers who were battle casualties who had lost their legs in battle, one of them had lost 2 legs, became army commanders, which is one rank below the chief. And I'm hoping one day we have a battle casualty who will be the chief of the Indian Army. So it was good serving in the army, making every challenge into an opportunity, and I lived a life which I loved, a life which has no equal, in my opinion, outside or anywhere else. And when I finally hung up my boots, I decided to work for a social cause. I worked for children with disability. And I protested on the streets of Delhi. I was arrested 5 times by the police. But the government probably thought that I was doing a reasonably good job. So they offered me the job of the chairman of the Rehabilitation Council of India. It was an unpaid job. It was not an honorary appointment, but it was unpaid. And I could have left after 2 years, but the disabled wanted me to hang on. So I worked without a single naira. So for 9 years, I worked for the Rehabilitation Council of India. And then after that, when I retired, I decided to write. Now, I always wanted to write I was a child, but the army doesn't look very favorably on people, soldiers in uniform who want to write, particularly if they don't want to write solid stuff about the army. So I decided to write after I retired, and I wrote this book, Paramveer, in 2000. I wrote it in longhand. I revised it 5 times. I put my heart and soul into that book, and I'm even astonished that when I read it today, and it has been reprinted 12 to 14 times, I think. And then I wrote Speaking of the Kukri, I wrote a number of other books. And I wrote, yeah,
Please go ahead, sir. I'm just showing the audience your books. Please go ahead.
yeah. So I wrote these books, but what I wanted most to do is to share the life of a soldier in war and in peace. So 10 years ago, I wrote short stories about the armed forces because I felt that the man in the street does not know enough about the armed forces, and he has a stake in the security of our country. He and his family have a stake in the security of our country. He needs to know more about soldiers, sailors, and airmen, what they do in battle. And therefore, I wrote these stories in the hope that he will get involved because he needs to ask questions. He needs to know what the armed forces is all about. Are we prepared for the next war? He needs to ask questions, and he cannot ask questions unless he knows more about the armed forces. So I wrote this book, but it has yet to be published. When I went to Penguin and I offered them this book, they said, General, 2021 is the 50th anniversary of the 1971 war. We would like you to write stories about this war. And that is how I wrote this book, 1971, Stories of Grit and Glory from the Indo-Pak War. So I'm still waiting for some publisher who will publish my book of short stories of war and peace about the armed forces. When I speak to school children and I speak to the corporate sector, they can't have enough of my stories. They want to know more and more. And the publisher, I think, who publishes this book will break the glass ceiling. And that book, I'm sure, will be an outstanding success.
Brilliant, sir. Great. And I'm so happy to know that the books are not only inspirational but create awareness about all the work that our soldiers do. I always say that in this country, when there's a natural or a man-made disaster, the only institution that you can really bank on, depend on, and rely on are the Indian Armed Forces. And I'm so happy that you're paying tribute to all our soldiers who risk their lives and who have even given their lives for the country and for the people. And you're paying tribute to them in your books. So you
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen, all three.
absolutely. When I said soldiers, I meant everybody from
Yeah,
all the
yeah, you're
armed
right.
forces. Yes,
You're,
yeah,
you're right. You're right. You're right.
yeah. So you said your father gave you books which inspired you to kind of created that mindset for you to be inspired to join the army. What did your father do, sir?
Oh, my father worked for a firm called Raleigh Brothers. They were a
Okay,
Greek, they were a Greek firm, which the building is next to the Tata House, just next door to Tata House.
right.
And from the terrace of that building, we used to watch the Aga Khan matches.
Right.
My father did want to join the armed forces, but at that time, you could not become an officer unless you went to Sandhurst.
Right.
And he didn't have the wherewithal to go to Sandhurst. And so he was disappointed, but he felt that if he could not join the armed forces, one of his sons should. And that's why he tried to motivate me about war and stories of war.
Very nice. And what is his name, sir?
His name was Vincent Cardozo.
And your mother's name?
My mother's name was Diana Cardozo.
And what did she do?
My mother was a Hazaf. She taught for a school for a few years in a school.
Okay.
Till
Okay.
she got married and we were born, and then she looked after us.
And how many siblings do you have?
I have a brother. His name is Colin Cardozo,
Okay. And what
and
does he do?
he also worked in the corporate sector.
Okay. Okay. So you just have one brother,
I just have one brother.
older or
But
younger?
I have a number of cousins who were in the armed forces. I had a cousin in the Cardozo family migrated from Goa because the Portuguese did not give us enough opportunities for jobs.
Right.
And I don't have much to say about the British, but they offered us better jobs.
Right. Right.
My family migrated. Part of it went to Mau, part of it went to Bombay, part of
Right.
it went to Jodhpur, and funnily enough, part of it went to Karachi.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I was trying to tell people in the school group, which which a lot of people from Goa have a Portuguese hangover, right? And they think the Portuguese did a lot for the people of Goa. All they did was plundered from the people of Goa, and yet
Absolutely,
yet we have a Stockholm syndrome about glorifying them and praising them. But anyway,
absolutely.
I think that's a Stockholm syndrome that most people in the world kind of suffer from because we like white skin, we like European culture and so on. uh,
Perhaps Ronaldo is also part of it.
Yes, I know. And if you saw it in the alumni group, you would see that whenever I spoke about how because the Portuguese came 350 years before the British, and they really plundered us. I'm also from Goa, just like you, and I'm from that place where the 16 Gaunkar clans were all massacred. The men, folk especially, were killed, and this is
Kunkoli.
not in our history books. This is in 1550s.
Is it Kunkoli or Kurtum?
Kunkolem. It's called the Kunkolem Revolt because they
Yeah.
wanted to convert us to Christianity and we wouldn't convert. And they were all Gaunkars, they were called, tribal clansmen. And the well still stands there today. It's called the Martyrs Well. You spoke about our school values. Our school motto is Duck in Altum. Do you want to unpack that a little for all of us?
Uh, uh, Duke in Altum is
Duke
an
in Altum, yes,
exercise
yeah.
which has lead
Dive
on
in deep.
lead on high.
Right,
Altum is high. Duke
right,
is to lead on
right.
high.
Lead on high.
I learned Latin in school, so I know a bit of Latin.
Right,
So the Jesuit fathers at that time were very strong on character.
right,
So what was important is that they gave us an all-round uh, sort of background. They wanted us to be good citizens of India. They wanted us to have
right.
Christian values of love, Christian values of faith, Christian. They
Of
they were
empathy. Christian values is rooted in empathy. Do unto others as you would want them to do unto you.
yeah, and slightly digressing, uh, the army, in a way, follows very much the teachings of Jesus Christ.
Right,
Jesus said, "No greater love has a man than he gives up his life for a friend."
right,
John and Matthew.
right.
And that is what the army is all about.
Absolutely.
Sacrifice, putting country first, putting the people of India first, putting regiment, society, battalion,
Right.
and our soldiers. And the second commandment of God is do unto others what you would like others to do to you, which means treat others fairly. Don't
Absolutely.
lie, don't cheat, don't do others down. That is
Absolutely.
what the values of our school were.
And it's rooted in the concept of egalitarianism. which means you treat everybody fairly, social justice and equality for all. And I think the army also practices that. I
Yeah.
must tell you that my father-in-law, Colonel Randir Grewal, he also served and fought in the war in 1971, and we have a picture of him where he's proudly standing with his battalion after capturing Sylhet. So yeah, so a lot of values, it's about having each other's back, and that's what they teach you in the army, and that's what they taught us in school also, the path of righteousness, the path of truth. And yet you see so many of our boys who have come out from that school, who are doing great work in several sectors. So uh, we've got a little bit of an inkling about what inspired you to write the books, but to go in deeper, like I was telling you, I mean, I was inspired to write books of ordinary heroes who I call as real everyday heroes. And the inspiration was that most people like Dashrath Manji, who actually moved an entire mountain and who actually inspired me to get into the concept of recognizing unsung heroes with the Karmavir Awards. And then in 2010, 2009 10 is when I thought about penning stories of the Karmavir heroes. And the idea was to tell people of India, and especially the children and the youth, that the heroes are not what you see on the big screen, movie stars or celebrities or the cricket stars. They are not the heroes. The heroes are people who are making a difference and changing the world. So that was my inspiration, and that's what got me into creating the Karma Kari book series. It's called the Karma Kari series. And last year, just before the lockdown, Karma Kari Kid Power. So now I'm creating different genres within the genres. So we have the Karma Kari Kid Power series, where we basically kind of profile stories of children. In the first book, I profiled stories of children who are from very unserved communities and yet giving back after getting their education from government schools, giving back to society in a big way. And the whole idea was that if they can give back, what are you and I doing? What are our children from the privileged households doing? So that was my inspiration to kind of start penning books of real heroes. What really inspired you to start writing books about heroes from the armed forces?
Uh, India has fought 5 wars, and there are many stories to tell.
Right,
Unfortunately, these stories have not yet been told. So they needed to be told, and I felt that the Indian citizen needed to know a little more about what the armed forces do to allow them to sleep in peace, to function.
right,
And so I thought that I should share my personal experiences in a book and hope that others also would write their stories so that the, the civilian gets to understand what the armed forces is all about.
absolutely. And they should learn to respect the sacrifice of the soldiers, because they have to earn that respect. As civilians, we have to earn that respect of our soldiers to inspire them to risk their lives to protect us. I don't think we've earned it as citizens. What are your thoughts on that?
My thought on that is something what you said a little earlier. Uh, Life. What is life all about?
True.
No one, no one can really value life unless he has faced death. And the soldier in war and in battle faces death 24 by 7. And when, if he is a lucky one to come out of it alive, then he, he understands that he has to give back to society what God wants him to do. And
Right.
therefore, he should do his best to serve society outside of the uniform, because after he retires, he goes back to his village, he goes back to his city, and you will find that retired people contribute a lot
Right.
to social sector.
Absolutely. You spoke about the book that is going to be published and launched in October, and I'm going away from 1971 and your other books, which have already been published now, because you know in the Rex Karmavir Global Fellowship community, we have created another fellowship called the Rex Karmavir Global Youth Fellowship, and the idea is to inspire our youth to become independent professionals because there are no jobs out there today because of the entire breakdown. It's not an economic slowdown anymore. And of course, the politicians would like to blame it on the pandemic, but the economic breakdown has happened much before the pandemic, especially in our country. And people have lost jobs all over the place. We've seen what happened during the second wave. Almost 5 million lives is what they're saying now were lost. I think it's at least double of that. But more than anything else, people who were in jobs which were taking care of their livelihood and their families have lost their jobs, and children, youth who graduated last year and this year are finding it very difficult to get jobs. So we started something called the Mojosh Inspirator Life Leadership and Learning to Learn Success Summit. And what we're teaching them is that the concept of success is not about fame, fortune, glory. It is about making positive contributions, creating value, creating impact for society, for community, for country, and for the world. And our tagline, if you see there, is when winds of change blow, most hide behind walls. Few choose to harness the wind to build windmills. Now, one of the things that we're also doing within this program is inspiring youngsters to think about joining the Indian Armed Forces, because not too many youngsters are interested in joining the armed forces nowadays. And you said that you've spoken about your journey in Cartus, which is what the soldiers used to call you because they couldn't pronounce Cardozo. So do you want to tell our youth a little about why they should join the army, and if not as a permanent kind of a uh, career option, but at least the short service commission?
Yes, that's a good question, Jerry. I would like to first tell you as to why I joined the army.
Yeah, please, please.
I was in St. Xavier School. I told you I had relations who were in the infantry, in the armored corps, in the air force, in the navy, and my father was keen that I joined because he couldn't serve the armed forces. And there was a boy who was 4 years senior to me in St. Xavier's.
Hmm.
His name was Sunit Francis Rodrigues.
Right, right,
And his father, Francis Rodrigues, and my father were best friends.
right.
And Sunit joined the first course, GSW, which was the precursor for the NDA.
Right.
When he came back, he was so, I mean, he was physically tough. He carried himself so well. He spoke so well. One of the functions, he came in his uniform, and I said, "That's the place I want to be.
Right.
That's where I want to go."
So is General
So,
Rodrigues much more senior to you?
4 years senior to me.
And he's also from Xavier's?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So I know him because his son-in-law used to be a good friend of mine, and then I've met him when he was the governor of Punjab. So yes, great. So he inspired you, yeah?
yeah. And my eldest son, who also joined the army in my regiment after that, he's named after him. My eldest son is named Sunit.
Oh, his name is Sunit Cardozo, is it?
Yeah,
And he's also in the army?
my regiment, my
Wow,
battalion.
excellent.
And yeah, so I was saying that what people need to know and think about is that you only have one life to live,
Right.
and you must live it to the full.
Absolutely.
And what better place is there to live life to the full except in the army? Why? Because you don't have to look for adventure when you're in the armed forces. Adventure will come looking for you.
Right.
And when I was a young officer, and we used to go to our posts on the border or the Tibet border, we used to stop at night at transit camps, which was the equivalent of the old Mughal sarais. And there, with a glass of rum or whiskey before a fire, the old timers would tell us stories about World War II, the Indo-Pak War of 1947, and we felt, when will we have a chance to live similar, to have similar stories to tell?
Very nice.
And we've had our fill, more than our fill, and we have lots of stories to tell.
Very true.
Also, we need to understand that life is an adventure or it is nothing.
Right.
And what Abraham Lincoln said, it is not the years in your life which matter, it is the life in those years.
Right.
So when you join the armed forces, firstly, when you go to the NDA, you get the opportunity to play every possible game. In addition to swimming and boxing and athletics and football, you learn to ride, you learn to fly, you learn to sail, and every opportunity is available. The only thing which is not available is time to do everything, but you have to choose and prioritize. And when you leave the army, you leave NDA and get commissioned, which profession pays you to play games? Which profession pays you to do mountaineering, deep sea diving, uh, skydiving? All these things are there. So, what better life can there be than in the armed forces? And then, when battle comes your way, you have a chance to lead your troops into battle. It is an awesome responsibility that falls on very young shoulders. But the Indian Army officer does not say, Tum aage jao, मैं आ रहा हूँ. He says, मेरे पीछे move behind me, follow me. And the soldier, the Indian soldier who is the best in the world, follows his young tiger. You know, in the army, all commanders are called tigers,
Right.
and you have to live up to that title. And as you said, lions in the social sector, in the corporate sector, tigers in the army, and these soldiers follow you, and because you are right in front, the, the percentage of officer casualties in the Indian Army is the highest. In my battalion, the 4th Battalion, the 5th Gurkha Rifles in 1971, we entered the war with 18 officers. Only 7 survived in a 13-day war, the shortest war in military history. And 4 got killed and 7 got wounded. Only 7 survived with minor wounds or unscathed. So the point is, a battle casualty, his wound is a badge of honor. He does not look at it as a disability. He looks at it as a badge of honor. It is for his country. When, but the civilian does not understand this. When I came home, my sons were 5 years old, 4 years old, and 2 years old. The youngest guy, Vikram, wanted his leg like his daddy. But the eldest one told his mother, my wife Priscilla, that, Mom, my friends will laugh at my daddy because he's only got one leg. And Priscilla told him, son, your father is a hero. He didn't lose his leg playing marbles. He lost his leg for the country. Be proud of your dad. And that is why he joined the army subsequently.
Very nice. And I think that's very inspiring for our youngsters to learn, and we will take this life lesson to them that joining the army does not only give you dignity and honor, like they say, it's better to uh, uh, better to die standing than to live on your knees, right? But it also gives you the opportunity to have a lot of fun, play games, inspire solid character, and unleash your true potential. So I think all our youngsters out there who are watching should know that, if you have no other options, the army is a great option. It will make you a man of honor. It'll build, or a woman of honor, and inspire solid character. Coming to your books, Major General Ian Cardozo, do you want to tell us a little about your Paramveer Chakra, maybe just 2 or 3 lines about each of these books which you've written over the years before we kind of go deeper into 1971?
Yeah, the Paramveer book was, I I was telling you, I always wanted to write, but that opportunity never came my way. Till Pramod Kapoor of Roli Books
Right.
wanted somebody to write the story about the Paramveer Chakras, and he approached General Nambiar of the United Service Institution,
Hmm.
and General Nambiar very kindly pointed in my direction, and I was thrilled to get this opportunity.
Great.
I put my heart and soul into the book, and as I was telling you earlier, it's gone now into 12 to 14 reprints.
Very nice.
And as you said, it is not only, one wonders, are these ordinary men who did extraordinary things, or the extraordinary men who did extraordinary things? And I think it's a combination of both.
True. Very true. Because
So,
all of us have that potential within us to go for extraordinary.
yes, and it is the spark starts with your
Within.
stories that your mother tells you,
Very
the
true.
stories that I mean, what your teacher tells you, the stories and what you hear in the regiment about previous wars. My battalion is one of the highest decoration battalions of the Indian Army. We have 4 Victoria Crosses and any number of decorations. So those inspire one to do one's best. And I think what these books are all about is a four-letter word, and that word is love. Now, love may not be a very military word, but it is on the altar of love that men and women in uniform do their best for the country, lay their lives in the line of fire, and disappear if necessary in the smoke and fire of battle. It
Absolutely, because
is,
it's your love for the nation and the love for the people of the country that you're
yes,
out there putting your life at risk.
yes, life putting country first, love
Absolutely.
for the country, love for the people of India, love for the soldiers, love for the regiment, love for the cause, and love for the life that we live. This is what is the Paramveer's book is all about.
Very
And
nice.
then, and then again, Pramod Kapoor, who has a nose for good stories, asked me to write the story of the sinking of INS Kukri, which I did. It is also done very well.
Right.
It's a story about Captain Mullah, who uh, who went down with his ship and made the supreme sacrifice. He said, "How can I save my life when my sailors are locked down in this ship which is going down to sink?" And he went down with his ship, making the supreme sacrifice, and gave inspiration to all others. Although the Navy worldwide has said that no longer do captains have to go down with their ships, they need to save their lives to fight another war.
And yet he chose to go down with the ship.
Yes. And then I edited a book called Quest for Freedom. It was about the Bangladesh War.
Hmm.
Then I wrote the book of the VCs of World War One. And then I wrote the biography of Lieutenant General Binemoria from my regiment. And then I written the book of which is yet to be published. That I told you I wrote it 10 years ago. And then this book about the 71 war. But army officers' wives also wrote to me and said, "Sir, could you rewrite the book on Paramveer in the form of illustrated stories, what is
Right.
commonly mis- misnomer called mistakenly as comics? They're not
Comic.
funny. They're not funny, but they're illustrated stories. There are 21 Paramveer Chakra awardees. I've written 12 stories so far, and they're doing very, very well.
And who's your illustrator for that?
My illustrator is a boy called Rishi Kumar.
Rishi Kumar.
Yeah,
Okay.
who he and I get on very well,
Okay.
and he understands my stories, and he illustrates exactly what I need to
And where
convey.
and where is Rishi based? And who's the publisher for this
Again,
illustrated books?
Gully books,
Rolly
and,
books. Okay.
and Rishi Kumar is in. Uh, he perambulates between Noida and Delhi,
Okay.
and he's a good guy. I like him, and we get on famously. So that is about the illustrated stories. And surprisingly, you'll be glad to know. I don't know if you'll be glad to know that I write poems about war.
Wow. Excellent.
I've, I've written 12 poems, and I hope to make them 20. The first poem is about the marigold. The marigold, all the Commonwealth countries have the poppy as the flower of remembrance for their war dead. Russia has its own flower, USA has its own flower, France has its own flower. But I am of the opinion that India has to have its own flower, that is the marigold.
Okay.
I've written a poem on it. I'll send it to you. You can share it with others if you like.
Do you want to read it out for us now?
I I don't have it at the moment. Uh,
Okay.
if you give me a minute, I can get it and read it out to you.
Surely, surely.
Okay.
Or you can read out something from your book a little later. We will save some time for that.
Okay.
Yes. So there's something which I heard you say earlier when when you were narrating your journey of life, and you said that you revised and edited your book 5 times, and that was like music to my ears. A lot of people think I've lost the plot because you know all the research and the revision and the editing It takes me around 2 years to complete a book because each book has 22 stories of real heroes who are out there, completely unsung, unknown, right? And then then I hear of authors who write books in 3 months, and I'm like, how do they do that? But you spoke about putting heart, soul, spirit into the book. So how long does it take you to complete a book?
It takes me a year and a half to 2 years to write a book.
That's because you go into the quality of the book rather than just making a book out and putting it out there saying I'm a published author. And I'm
Yes,
very happy to hear that. And I hope all the aspiring authors who are listening that treat your book with respect. People are going to invest time in reading it. So please treat it well and please ensure that you're giving something which is close to the best. Nothing can be the best or the perfect, but giving something which is close to the best, which people can really enjoy reading. Yes, so please share.
yes. So when I write a book, as you have rightly said, I put myself into the shoes of the reader.
Very nice.
What does the reader want to know? What can convey the story in a manner which will make him feel that yes, there is something in this story. And I prefer a story. You see, if a story has a happy ending, most people forget about it. If the story has an unfortunate ending or there's a twist in the story which is not so fortunate, people will remember.
Very nice.
Because we learn more from defeat than from victory. And we have to learn from these stories as to how to move forward, to be better, and to ultimately make sure that the ultimate aim in war is victory in war. So, coming back to the point about uh, wanting to write a book, I like to write a story which has a twist at the end, or there's a message for the reader that he will not forget.
Very nice. And
This,
and I want to kind of basically share and create generate that insight for all our young, because a lot of people are looking now to become authors, even professional authors, that invest your time and effort into researching well and writing well and revising well so that the readers get a experience of their lifetime. And I think that's what you can learn from Major General Ian Cardozo, who spoke about how it takes 1.5 to 2 years to write a book. And the same from me, because a lot of people sometimes think I've lost the plot because I go in for more and more revisions because I want to ensure that the readers get the best. But I'm so happy to hear General Cardozo also share that he really invests his time, because it's not just about kind of having author and speaker attached to your name on Facebook or on LinkedIn. It's about what is the kind of subject matter expertise and investment that you put into that content, which really makes the difference. And to conclude, General Cardozo, coming to your book 1971, the publisher is Penguin. Tell us more about 1971, and do you have the book with you to show to the audience?
yeah, I want to show the audience two things. The book,
Yes.
as you can see, it's got a brilliant cover. Uh, the designer and the artist have made a brilliant cover for this book. I'm very, very impressed with it.
And that is my book, General Cardozo. I must give
Okay.
you a copy when we meet after
Okay.
this lockdown is over.
And the other thing I want to share with the reader, because when I talk about the kukri attack and the use of kukri by Gurkhas, they may not know what a kukri is. So I
Right.
want to show them what a kukri looks like. And
Very nice.
this
So
is a kukri.
that's a kukri. Its origin and roots are in Nepal,
That's right.
and
It has,
and most people from Nepal say that if you're carrying a kukri, if it comes out, it does not go in without tasting blood.
that's true. And there's a notch over here just short of the handle.
Right.
And that notch is being made particularly to prevent the blood from flowing onto the handle and making it slippery.
Okay, I didn't know about
This
this.
this is a 10-inch, 10.5-inch kukri, but the battle kukri is from 14 to 16 inches. And you can see this curve. This curve is meant to slice off the head of the enemy. In our battle, the first battle fought by my battalion at Adgram, we took 32 heads. We decimated the Charlie Company of 31 Punjab, and they went on to tell the other soldiers, don't mess with the Gurkhas, you're likely to lose your head. And
Right.
that's what helped us in the Battle of Sylhet. The Battle of Sylhet, we fought for 9 days and 9 nights without food on mistaken information that the brigade of which was there had moved for the defense of Dhaka. It had not moved. On the contrary, it was reinforced by another brigade. So there was the 202 Brigade, there was 313 Brigade, there was a Sylhet garrison. Finally, when the surrender took place, they were shocked beyond belief that we were only 352. We landed with 384, but after casualties, we were 352. And we were shocked beyond belief when three brigadiers, two full colonels, 173 officers, 290 JSOs, and 8,000 troops surrendered to us.
Right. And and the motto of the Gorkha regiment is that better to die than to be a coward.
That's right.
And what is the size of the kukri with which you cut your leg? Was it the
Uh,
18-inch kukri or
no, no, it was a 16-inch cookie.
16-inch kukri? And and what are the kind of thoughts going through your mind when you decided to do that?
Uh, the thoughts in my mind were I'd seen too much in 65.
Right.
I'd seen too much in 71. And I thought I was very lucky to have lost only a leg.
Okay. So you were still feeling grateful and lucky because you were still alive.
That's right.
And I think that's a great life lesson for all of us out there. That be grateful you're alive. Rejoice every day. You don't live only once. You live every day if you come alive. Otherwise, you die every day because it's just the Walking Dead. It's just existential. Don't be existential and survive. Be alive and thrive. And I think that's a great lesson, a life lesson from what you just said. That the thoughts going through your mind are that I've just lost a leg. I still have my life. Very nice, brilliant.
And the last thing one thing I'd like to share with the listeners is that the backbone of the army is the army officer's wife and the army officer's mother. Without their support, we cannot or do not do what we do for the country. They need to be honored and remembered.
Very nice. So, do you want to tell us a couple of stories from the book 1971? Stories
Uh,
of grit and glory from the Indo-Pak War. If you can narrate a couple of stories or read some paragraphs from the book which are dear to your heart.
uh, Reading will take too long. I'll just narrate.
Yes, go ahead.
Is that okay?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely fine.
The book consists of 14 stories. 4 stories are about the Navy, 2 stories are about the Air Force, and 8 stories are about the Army. But the Army cannot function, unlike what is being said today in the media, without the help of the Air Force. So we can do what we do in the land battle, provided the Air Force is there to support us.
Very true.
And so most of the stories are about the army, but also about the support that we received from the Air Force to make those battles successful. So each and every story has a message for the reader. But I don't say in the conclusion or in the postscript that this is the message. I leave it to the reader to find out what is the message of this particular story. So the first story about the Navy is about the hunt for the Vikrant. It was the Ghazi which was ordered to target the Vikrant and to destroy it on the first day of the war, and the opposite happened. It was the Ghazi which self-destructed. Now I can't go into to each story; it will take too much time. But the stories also tell you about the mindset of the Pakistani.
Right.
Whatever interviews which were available of prisoners of war, of stories of the on the internet, of books which I did research on, tell you of the Pakistani mindset also. And although the unfortunate part in the war of 71 was that in East Pakistan, the the Pakistani soldier dishonored himself. He was led by debauched officers, and they were debauched themselves because they killed, massacred 1 million people and raped women and children. which was a blot on the name of the Pakistan army. And but there were battles which were well fought. There were battles on the other side where people fought bravely, and I have written about those stories where not only where they have done badly, but where they have done well. So I've tried to be balanced in my stories and to give the reader an understanding about what war is all about. So then the last three stories are about how the war finally ends. Uh, what the reader has to understand is that a war which was wrapped up in 13 days is historic. The Western world was absolutely astonished at the manner in which we wrapped up a war in just 13 days. And it was like the German blitzkrieg. We wrapped up this war, but in difference to what happened in Berlin, Dhaka was the center point. It was the center of gravity of East Pakistan. And we understood that unless Dhaka falls, we cannot win this war. And we went all out. And we reached the outskirts of Dhaka. The war started on the 4th of December. And by the 14th of December, we were on the outskirts of Dhaka. But by that time, General Manek Shaw, the army chief, and the government of India decided that it was no point in further bloodshed, and we asked the Pakistanis to surrender. That surrender, uh, they were trying to hedge. Finally, it was Air Force pilots, which targeted the government house in Dhaka. That story is there. It's called The Last Straw, which pushed the government into surrendering. I don't want to tell you too much about the story, otherwise people will not read the book. But it
Right.
was
Right. So
so it was
my request to all the listeners and the people in the audience, please do go and buy the book. It's available on Amazon and at all leading bookstores. It's published by Penguin. And thank you for sharing those the gist of the stories with us.
and one more thing I want to say, Jerry, is that the the world and the country does not recognize or know what the Indian Navy did. They fought a fantastic battle on the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, and their story also needs to be told. I've told that story in The Sinking of the Kukri, partly, but the country must acknowledge the role of the silent service. They don't talk about themselves, of what
Absolutely.
they did to make the victory so phenomenal.
Yes, and I plan to have Admiral Vishnu Bhagwat. His son was my classmate in school,
Oh,
and he's written a book called The Betrayal of the Defense Forces. So I plan to have him on similar conversations one of the Sundays in August, where he would share more about the Navy. And you know how he was asked to leave the Navy because he wouldn't hang not Veer, but Savarkar's picture in the naval headquarters, which I think he was absolutely right in doing that. So Bhagwat, who was also in the Navy, is my classmate from Saint Xavier's High School, Fort. And I'm happy that you shared about what the Pakistani soldiers did at that time, which was very dishonorable, because of which the Mukti Bahini wanted to kind of avenge all the women and people that they had plundered and killed and raped and so on.
yes.
So
So the story of the Mukti Bahini and their contribution to the war is also phenomenal.
right,
It was They were the eyes and ears of the Indian Army. They gave us all the information, and
right,
without their help and the civilians of East Pakistan, the war would not have been wrapped up in 13 days. So
right.
the Mukti Bahini and the people of Bangladesh are also mainly responsible for
So,
India's victory in that war.
so have you also spoken about some of the people from the Mukti Bahini in the book?
Yes, I have.
You
There's
have,
a
very
story.
nice.
There's a very story which
Because
they like.
that was an underground resistance movement, right?
It started off underground, but later on it came overground.
Right.
And there's a story which is called "And Then There Was One." It's the story about four of us, and the prime character in this story is a Bangladeshi officer uh, Abu Tahir.
Hmm.
And Wayne Malik, General Wayne Malik says that when he read that story, he got goosebumps. So read that story also. And then there was one, it tells you a lot about the Mukti Bahini and their contribution to make the war a victory.
Very nice. And earlier you had shared about how you write stories and you leave it for the audience to draw insight without really inferring an insight for them. While what I do in my books is, with every story of every hero, I draw an insight, because since I'm a trainer and a coach, I do leadership coaching in companies. That's the self-help book series called Mojosh Inspirator. As we were speaking, I got inspired that, maybe I should work with you and collaborate with you to do a book on soldiers from the armed forces, soldiers, sailors, airmen from the armed forces, and then draw life leadership and learning to learn lessons from them towards the end as insights. So that's another conversation that we need to have. But
Great.
I'm looking forward to reading Kartus, and you said it's going to release
So
in
Kartus Saab,
Kartus Saab. So Kartus Saab, and who and I'm looking forward to it, because I think it's a book which is a must read, not only for everybody in my age group. I've just turned 50 last year, but especially the youngsters who should be inspired to join the armed forces. The armed forces need you, and I think it, more than the armed forces needing you, you need the armed forces, because it'll teach you solid character. It'll unleash your unlimited potential and take you on a great adventure. So, any closing insights, General Cardozo? And please show your book once again to the audience. So, and please, my humble request to everybody in the audience, thank you for joining in once again, and please do go and buy 1971. Uh, if nothing else, pay a tribute to all our soldiers who risked their lives and gave their lives for the country and for all the people of India. So, any closing insights, General Cardozo?
I had not thought of it before, but now that you've asked me, uh, when I was interviewed by a correspondent from a newspaper in over 3 years ago, I
Mhm.
was asked, General, after what has happened to you and you lost your leg, would you join the army again if you were given the chance to start life all over again? And I thought of the three wars that I had fought. I thought of the raids across the line of control, which I thought of the ambushes in which I laid in the ambushes in which I got caught. I thought of the soldiers, my good friends who I loved, are no more. I thought of the life in the army, the laughter and the tears, the separations and the reunions. And I said to myself, yes, I would I would join the army given the choice again without any doubt, because it has the life in the army has no equal. So that is my closing message to everybody. If you want to live a life of adventure, if you want to live a life to the full, join the armed forces. And don't make it your third or fourth choice, make it your first choice.
Absolutely, because we always saying that the government does not do this, the government does not do that, and I think it's time that we asked, what are we doing for the country? Are we just kind of, living a 9 to 5 routine life, without any what we promote as individual social responsibility in the Karmavir community? The Rex Karmavir Global Fellowship is all about owning individual responsibility, and if we are not owning that, we cannot blame the government or anybody else for what is going wrong in our country. You and I are responsible for it, whether the country is dirty or it's corrupt. It's not just the people in government who are responsible, all of us are responsible for it. And as citizens,
Absolutely.
like General Cardozo said, our school at St. Xavier's High School for taught us not only to be career mules, because that's what most education teaches you, to chase a career, but it taught us to be good human beings, good citizens. And I think that is the need of the hour, not just for India but for the world over. How do we fulfill our responsibilities as human beings by preserving the earth? How do we fulfill our responsibility as citizens by doing something for the country? So thank you, General Cardozo. Very inspiring as always, very insightful as always. Thank you so much. And my regards to Priscilla ma'am and everybody at home. Thank you for sharing all your insights from the book 1971 from Paramveer Chakra. And I look forward to having a conversation again with you soon when Kartu Saab is launched. So all the
Thank,
best for Kartu Saab also.
thank you, Jerry. Thank you for
Thank you.
giving me the
Have a good
opportunity
evening.
to
Thank you.
be with you. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Jerry.
sir.